Business Law, 10 Practical Ways to Engage Gen Z Students. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Abigail Blakely. I'm the Senior Manager of Content Marketing here at Stukent, and I'm so excited that you have joined us today for the session. As we begin, I want to encourage you to use the chat feature. Go ahead and get warmed up there. Start by sharing where you're from, what courses you're teaching. We've got a lot of different instructors joining today's session. If you have any questions, you're going to continue to use this chat feature on the right side of your screen. We have some people on standby, but we're going to save those questions as well for the very end of today's session for a Q&A. So go ahead and pop in where you're coming from. We're here in Stukent HQ in Idaho Falls, Idaho, with a very mild winter. We've got Michael at Dayton, Ohio. Elaine in Tulsa. Ooh, with accounting. Nice to have you here. And so supply chain with Xavier. Awesome. Y'all are coming from all over the place so far. So good to have you guys here. If you need to leave a little bit early for today's session, that's okay. Don't worry. We will be recording it and we will be sharing it afterwards with all of our registrants. So any links and resources shared throughout the event, you'll get those too. We will have that Q&A session at the end. So if you can stick around for that, feel free to save your questions for that time. For those of you who are new to Stukent on today's session, our mission is to help you help your students help the world. And we do this by providing course materials and Simternships in accounting, business, communication, and marketing to help bridge that gap between academia and industry. And that's what we're doing today with this webinar. It's designed to give you actionable ideas to boost student engagement and success. So right now you can actually click on a pop-up just below at the bottom of your screen to explore the Stukent site and see our offerings. Once you've found a course match, with just a few clicks, you can also get free instructor access to any of our Stukent Simternships or courseware. So let's jump right into today's session. I'm going to ask Ralph to go ahead and hop on stage while I introduce him. So Ralph holds a Juris Doctor from George Washington University and a bachelor's in marketing and international business from Carthage College. He's also a banker degree from Germany. He is a published author with experience in developing domestic and international business across ERP, cloud, agriculture, and healthcare industries. As a licensed attorney, he's held global executive and management roles in the US and Germany. He's currently an associate professor at Minnesota State University, Moorhead, where he teaches business law, ethics, and personal finance. His teaching philosophy is keep it simple, keep it real, and make it relevant for the students. He learned about personal finance from his teachings, jobs, and real-life experiences, but mostly importantly from making mistakes and learning from them. So thank you so much, Ralph, for joining us today. And I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. And I'm very excited to have the time to speak to you. We're going to talk about the interesting topic of getting students interested in business law, at least the basics at the college level, and hopefully making it fun. I'm very excited to be able to share my ideas on what it takes to really engage Gen Z. And I'm sure with all your experience, you know these things already, and I'm going to try to make it applicable to really business law. Apologies for the accent. I'm from Germany originally. The accent won't go away. It's kind of cute. And if I get too fast, somebody please let me know. So what we're going to talk about today is how can we teach business law and make it really, meet Gen Z's expectations. Gen Z is a special generation in a good way, and what can we do to really get them engaged? So let me just jump to this. So by way of background, we've talked a little bit about it, but I want to talk a little bit more about it because it will explain why I believe that how we teach this topic is so important. So my background is, again, from Germany, but I've always had the combination of law and business, right? And I'm trying to take that combination of law and business into the classroom, not to teach them about the law per se, not to have them read cases, but to really teach them how to, apply the law or maybe figure out when to use an attorney when they are in real life. And that's what this is all about. So again, by way of background, that's where I came from. Funny thing is that I've taught business law on the side and not now full-time for the last 6 or 7 years. I have not used a textbook in about 20 some years. And the reason I didn't is because the ones that were out there did not meet my requirements of how I wanted to teach the topic. It can be a very boring topic, right? It can make it super boring if you have, with all due respect to my fellow authors, if you have them read court cases. I've been a practicing transaction attorney for 30 some years. The last time I read a court case was about 25 years ago. We don't do that in the business world. So that's why I believe it's so important to really look at Gen Z's expectations to see, what do they need and how do we teach? And the funny thing is that their expectations are basically exactly what we expected and what we probably should have looked at even in prior generations. So simple statistics here, right? We're professors, we have to talk numbers and stuff. So why does Gen Z even want a college degree, right? And it's really funny then that you would think maybe in the olden days it was, well, I have a college degree or I have an MBA, so maybe it's a status thing. For Gen Z, that is not the case. Right? For Gen Z, they want to go to school and get a degree for career success, right? It's about being successful in their career. They want to intellectually develop. They want to learn. As you're probably all aware, they tend to be a little bit shy when it comes to making mistakes. They don't like make mistakes. So they want to learn stuff. They want to learn stuff that is required for what they're going to do in their careers, not just some theoretical stuff out there. And yes, there is a financial component to it as well, not unsuspected. As you know, probably for different reasons than for my generations. I'm a Gen Xer, right? And when I grew up, it was important to make money and have a house and 3 cars and all this stuff. It's a little bit different for this generation, and we'll talk more about this. So those are the 4 main reasons, and at some point, it talks about the college experience and family expectations. But when you look at those top reasons, right, that is sort of a little bit different than maybe what we have expected in the past. Now, how does that translate into their specific requirements? What do they specifically expect in a class, right? Again, career relevance, right? Relevance is the number one thing, right? Why do I have to know this? Why do I have to learn this? In our university, we even see it in the math classes where questions are being asked, why do I need to know this? If you give a good answer, if you make it relevant, right, then it's, oh, okay, I get it. Practical skills, right? They want to be able to learn something in college and in other places as well, and really make it a practical skill with real world experience that they can learn from the course. Return on investment, right? If you're like my student, or if you have students like my students, I would say 95% of my students work outside the classroom at least 20 hours, right? And that's the low end, because they have an issue with money. They want to make sure they don't have too much debt. They want to know that if I spend this money, there is return on investment for me long term. They also want us to use modern technology. Right? The standing there and lecturing is no longer the thing. Make it fun, make something pop up on the screen, what have you. They also want to be flexible when it comes to the way we teach, right? It's not just the in-classroom thing. It's the hybrid thing, whatever you want to call it, or whatever you call it in your institution. Different ways of getting information. And not only for the whole class. So my whole class is online, but maybe pieces are. And there are different ways I actually look at things as they're being taught. Hands-on learning, I said, goes hand in hand, no pun intended, with the idea of relevance, right? They want the hands-on learning in the classroom. They want internships and project-based assignments that are more than just theory, right? They also want to be able, at least that's what I've found, they want to be able to some degree customize their courses and tailor or have the course meet their personal interests. In my classes, I have some students who maybe will go on to law school, but most don't. Most will be in the business side of things. But then I have students who maybe are going to be in graphic design or in public relations, and they want to make sure that what I teach them, there's some semblance or some pieces actually apply to what they're interested in. You probably also know that interaction is really important with the students. And yes, they're a little bit shy, and yes, they do not know how to use a phone, but you can always text them, right? But they want that interaction in the classroom and outside the classroom. They want, when it comes to the classroom, they want an inclusive and diverse environment. And that's not a matter just of the class itself. We can't control that, but it's the way we teach. Just to give an example, when I give an example in class, let's make it up. Ralph is buying a car. How should they consider signing the agreement or negotiating the agreement? So I actually use they, them, for example, as a neutral pronoun. And that little thing, those little things actually do make a difference, especially in this generation, because this is important to them. And then on the last point, they do also like, at least in the beginning, they do like the idea of collaboration, right? Doing things together, group work, learning together. You have to treat them a little bit differently and show them how to do it, but that's an important part, this whole doing it together environment. Gets challenging when you have an online class or whatever, but that is something they really do appreciate as well. So having said that, what can we do to actually meet these expectations, right? What is it that I found, at least, that makes a difference? The number one thing is understand, again, back to those motivations, understand them, and then find ways to actually apply that understanding to your classroom. And this is not a matter of pandering to special needs or something. This is really a matter of making them want to learn, be interested in it, ask questions, apply their learning in their internships and jobs and what have you. And I'll go into more detail coming up. Adapt the course design, make it more interesting instead of just a normal lecturing. And sometimes I do stupid things, right? To give an example, I start out every class session going through the news. And I pick 5, 6 news items that are of legal relevance, if you will, right? And like yesterday I taught, and we had somebody charged with murder here in town, right? So I brought up the whole story, and we talk about it, and I make the connection to, okay, we're going to talk about criminal law today, and here's how this connects, right? Again, use the whole idea of this active and applied learning, the interaction, and even in business law. Yeah, you can do this. It's totally doable, and I'll share some ideas with that. Again, back to technology and media, leverage what you have. Make it interesting, make a difference. Once in a while, I tell them in my in-person classes, we're not going to meet on Thursday. I have a recording for you, but I want you to do X instead. Meet with your fellows and work on a project. And then on top of it, or the last point, the point I made already, is the feedback, right? Ask for the feedback, provide support, and also, create that classroom climate. That is really an important thing when it comes to the learning. And I probably shouldn't mention this, but as I mentioned, we talked about criminal law in my last class yesterday. And yes, I had a plastic pirate sword, which I bring to class, and I pretend to stab people. And we talk about assault and battery and what have you. Make it interactive and make it different, and tell the story that is so important for all students, but especially for these students in this generation to learn or to have. So back to those motivations, the number one thing I've found is relevance is the key, right? Why do I have to learn this? Right? Why does this make a difference? Right? How am I going to use this in real life? And again, not throwing cases under the bus, but reading a case to figure out some esoteric topic in tort law is not going to do it. Reading a case on some topic that resulted in some contract law decision is not going to do it. Give them an assignment that says, I need you to use an AI tool, we'll talk about this, use an AI tool and write me an agreement, and then review the agreement and tell me why this stuff is in there and why not, all of a sudden it's like, oh really? Or better yet, tell them to have the actual go through their lease agreement, and then we discuss it in class. So it's that relevance, it's that connection to the real world that is so important for them. And it's not only important for them because that's what they think they need. This is what they will need, right? I mean, when we send our students out, these are business students, right? We're going to send them out into the real world, and they will get a question, an email or whatever from their manager saying, hey, we just got this non-disclosure agreement in from this customer. Could you look at this and see whether it makes sense? That's the kind of stuff they will see, right? And we need to prepare them, to figure out maybe whether they can do it on their own, but more importantly, to figure out when to involve outside counsel or whatever it is. Again, the whole idea of autonomy and collaboration that is so important for this group, as shy as they are, right? But they do want to collaborate. They want to have a certain autonomy to do certain things on their own. Also, we have to work with their habits when it comes to technology, right? Again, I'm 2 or 3 generations removed, and you know, I know they will communicate with me through my cell phone, and that's the way they do. Don't try to call; it's not going to work, right? Just use it. Just get used to it. Learn from them. They have a very pragmatic approach in general, and I found in my classes, at least, they're really visual. And so in the way I teach business law, again, I have the news up and maybe a video up on some news items in my slide deck. You know, all of a sudden maybe we have something pop up that's not writing. It's not a graphic, but it could be maybe an agreement or something, or a logo that they really appreciate. The other thing also is value their time and investment. Right, and again, I don't know about you all, but my students work outside the classroom like crazy, you know, to reduce their debt and what have you, and value that. Right, so when they're in class, you're really going to learn something. My assignments are boom, 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 boom. Right, and they're needed. They make sense. They're relevant, and so if you student do this, then you're going to have this advantage going forward, and that's an important part for them because they're so focused on making sure their investment actually is paying off. As I mentioned, the course design itself, what I found is there are certain things that really make a big difference. And I'm chuckling a little bit. So the first one is, you know, be clear in your instructions. In the olden days, my instructions, for example, were, I'm just making it up, write me 2 paragraphs on your views of on the Second Amendment, right? I had to change that. Now it has to be, because I got questions, and you probably all know this. Well, how many words? Well, just 2 paragraphs. No, how many words? So now it's, you know, between 200 and 300 words, blah, blah, single space, what have you. You need to be very, very precise in your instructions, which is sort of funny. And part of that is the fear of making a mistake. You probably all know this, that this generation, as in your face as they can be on social media once in a while, they are afraid to make mistakes. The belief is they're afraid because when they make a mistake in their real lives, in their personal lives, it shows up immediately. So they're very, very afraid of making mistakes. I see it on the business side of my world. I consult in the software industry still. I see it where the younger colleagues are just so worried about making mistakes, and we're like, no. Let's do the best decision we can. If it's wrong, we'll fix it. Right? It's the same in the classroom. And it goes back to 200 to 300 words. You know, be very precise, and you'll get, you know, Professor, could you please look at my first draft of my paper? And like, no, I don't want to. Right? But it's part of the expectations of part of this generation, that they have this phobia of making a mistake. I've also found that it's important for my students to understand, how can you succeed? How can I get an A? Well, you know, come to class and do your work. No. You know, what do I need to do? So, helping them out, saying, okay, you need to come to class all the time, and we have in-class assignments that will help you and deliver your stuff on time, whatever. That's an important part as well. Again, it's not pandering to them in a negative way. It's just like, okay, let's get you to get you across that concern you may have. As I mentioned too, this blending of modalities, right? Do lecture and videos and do some graphics, hands-on stuff. Like I said, here's a business scenario. You are required to use an AI tool to draft an agreement, and then we're going to go through, right? That kind of stuff really I've found to be very, very, very helpful. The other thing, the last item here is, if there's ways that you can provide them with outside resources, maybe to learn stuff themselves. I, for example, give them information on how to use AI tools, or where to look up stuff related to agreements, for example, or resources for drafting agreements or for negotiating things. They like that, to actually be able to go out and learn more than they would just learn from the classroom itself. The next point, again, on the list is the whole idea of this active and applied learning. And it all comes back really to the same thing, right? The hands-on relevant stuff, right? Not theory, which is important, obviously, but if you want them to learn about what torts are all about, maybe talk about the McDonald's coffee case, right? The hot coffee cup and the lady who spilled it on herself. Use that instead of just talking in general about torts and obligations and what have you. That really makes a big difference. And if you combine the two, they'll get it, right? And I'm sure all of you are doing this already, but it's so important for this generation to really have that ability to make that connection, right? The purely abstract stuff is fine, but it's not going to click as well, right? And as I mentioned too, integrate this active learning, right? Short problem solving, right? Okay, class, we have an issue here. Somebody claims we have a breach of contract. What should we do, right? Stuff like that. On the assessment side too, I have stepped away from the traditional three exams per semester thing. I do quizzes every week. There's assignments, written assignments every week, small ones, not big ones, that they have to do. Again, I keep them relevant, and they're hands-on. Really, this is what you're going to see in the real world, right? Like I said earlier, your manager may come to you and say, listen, we got an NDA here. What should we do, right? Or we have a customer or client who claims that we, delivered a product that's faulty. What should we do, right? It's this hands-on stuff. We got a claim from an from an employee who said they were harassed at work. What should we do? And it comes down to this hands-on approach. Again, that's helpful in learning in general, but especially for this generation. As I mentioned, technology is a really good tool around, even for business law, and you can pull a lot of things up that make things interesting, right? The other thing I've found too, by the way, we're talking, we're talking how long people can actually focus on stuff nowadays. Chop it up in pieces, right? Do a 5-minute piece, 10-minute piece on the X, and then do something else that relates to X. But chop it up a little bit, make it focused so that they can actually follow. If nothing else, use a plastic pirate sword. That always breaks up stuff very well. I use a lot of digital tools and options in my classes, including, like I said, simple simulations, or pop up with a question. Okay, we have an HR complaint. What should we do about it? And again, and what should we do may result in maybe we need outside counsel, and that's fine, because that's what they will have to go through in real life anyway. When you communicate with them, and we have a whole discussion at school here right now about it, because we still send emails out. And my students don't read the emails. I don't know about your students. My students don't read the emails. I do two things. First of all, I tell them in class, everybody, you need to read your emails, because when you go into the business world, that is still, a main channel of communication. You cannot ignore emails. But the other thing I do too is I communicate with them via text message. I give them my cell phone number, and if they want, they can use it and text me, and we can actually communicate that way really well. It does work pretty well, actually. I don't get overwhelmed. I have about 150 to 250 students a semester, and I don't have more than, I'd say, maybe 50 to 100 texts during the semester, so it's all manageable, at least for me. And the other thing too that I do, although I'm stepping away a little bit, I used to give them extra notice. Okay, remember to do X, Y, and Z. I stepped away from that. I tell them at the beginning of the semester, right? You have the deadlines, and the deadline is a deadline. Don't F it up, right? If it's Monday at 10 o'clock at 10 p.m., it's Monday at 10 p.m. and not 11 p.m. So they're pretty good at that. By the way, on that note, one thing I've done is I do not have midnight deadlines anymore, because I know they will work between 10 and midnight to get the stuff done. My deadlines are 10 p.m. And the whole idea is, okay, I know you're going to work late on this stuff, but at least you need to get it done doing somewhat normal hours before you go and have your party. As I mentioned too, feedback and what have you is really important. I give lots of feedback through the quizzes and the assignments I have. I do polls once in a while. And again, it addresses the whole idea of this, am I doing right? Well, you have done everything so far, so logic will tell you if you had a 92 on average that you're doing pretty well, but you still need to make sure that you confirm that. Acknowledge the whole idea of well-being and stress, and for me, it's really more the financial, academic, work, college balance thing that my students are so exposed to. Once in a while, I do have a student who tells me, listen, I had to work an extra shift this week and I couldn't get it done. And you have one strike and or two strikes and you're fine. But I tell them, if you have an issue like this, you tell me in advance, not afterwards, right? But it's something that's really important to the students. And very often they, just knowing that they have the option to come to me and ask for an exception is enough. Mentioned as well to you, this whole idea of inclusive and participatory environment is important. You have to draw them out, right? They'll sit in the classroom, and if you allow laptops, they'll sit in a laptop and pretend they're following the lecture. But like I said yesterday, we talked about crimes, and to one of the students who I know really well, and I was pretending to smash a computer with I also bought a baseball bat, by the way, with my baseball bat. Everybody knows I'm pretending, and that wakes the class up very nicely, actually. Sorry about that. When it comes to AI use, just wanted to give you an idea of what I do. I changed about a year ago where I changed my policy to say, listen, unless I tell you otherwise, you are allowed to use AI tools. So I've flipped it around, and there are, as I mentioned already, there are some assignments where I require the students to use AI tools. I tell them, you need to use an AI tool to generate a contract. It's usually generating a contract for something. And then you go through, and then we're going to talk about what you found out. We had very good training here about a year ago at school on AI use, and the presenter made the statement that I bolded here. My students will not lose their job to AI tools. They will lose their jobs to somebody who knows how to use AI tools. And I really believe in that. So as a result, we really need to make sure that they use the tools and find ways to still assess whether they learn and whether they really do develop critical thinking skills, right? That's important. So again, it's my approach. It has worked really well over the last 2 semesters. And I do try to assess the students afterwards whether they really learned something. But I've heard feedback that they really like the fact that they are required to use AI tools for certain assignments. So what we do here's Stukent, what we've done with Stukent, what I do in class, and we make that connection, right, between the theory and the practice. And the idea is to really, teach a topic as dry as business law or legal environment of business, to make it interesting. And you can make it really interesting, right? The thing that I always tell people is, like, this is not a pre-law class. Let me just jump ahead here. This is not a pre-law class. This is something that teaches you sort of hands-on stuff, the general stuff, gets an idea, and also teaches you, again, like I said, when to maybe go to outside counsel. And part of that, the thing we have put together here, is this whole hands-on component, where we have different ways of making sure that the students follow what we do, that they really have things they can go through and actually learn that way, instead of just this theoretical approach. And I have a slide here I'm going to get to right now. Sorry to step over some others. This is what I do not do in my classes, and this is what at Stukent, when we put this together, what this courseware is not. Okay, it's not a 40-year approach, with all due respect to my fellow authors, to the way we teach business law, reading cases. Right? This is not a textbook for pre-law students. This is not an exercise in legal reasoning. Right? That's law school stuff. Right? That's stuff for other classes. This is not an overemphasizing the minute details, right? I bring things up once in a while in examples, but it's more about this practical view of things. And as much as I love, as I mentioned to you, legal cases, this is not what this is, or what we should be doing, in my opinion, in a class at a college level, teaching business law. I'm not making my students into attorneys, and I tell them that right up front. Right? If you want to be an attorney, take this class. I'll talk to you about some real good law schools afterwards. But this is more hands-on. And frankly, going back to the AI thing, when you think about it, what I think is going to happen, my profession is massively impacted, or will be massively impacted by AI. What's going to happen? A lot of stuff, a lot of businesses will do their stuff internally, even more so than they do right now, the legal stuff, if you will. So they will need people at all levels who have a general idea of how to do certain things. They'll do as much internal as possible. Then they may go out to outside counsel to get help, but a lot of stuff is going to be done internally. And we need to get our students to a point to realize, A, that that's going to happen, and B, what can they do to be prepared for that, right? And again, AI is one part of that discussion. In conclusion, right? Just going to tell you what we did here with this business law. You'll hear more about it with the courseware. We looked at those requirements. We looked at the way that, frankly, I've been teaching my class for 30 some years, and we put that in. We put those requirements of this generation. We put this into a courseware that hopefully does address those concerns, whether it's the relevance, whether it's the practical side and hands-on side of things, whether it's the idea of this is a return on investment, right? If you take this class, you learned a whole bunch of stuff that you will be able to apply later on, and then technology-wise and inclusion-wise, we've done a whole bunch of stuff, because it comes down in my mind to this the relevance, the practicality, it's real, right? It's not just the theory of teaching business law, which we all need to know about. So that's all I wanted to tell you. That's what I've learned, that's what I've done, and that's what I've tried to put into this courseware. And I'm looking forward to getting your feedback and getting your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ralph. I think this is one of the best presentations that I've seen this year, and on student engagement. You have such a deep understanding of what your students are experiencing, and I can tell that they find you probably extremely relatable and understanding. So this was a really great session. We're going to launch the AI policy handout that Ralph just mentioned in his presentation, so that you can review that template, use it in your courses as well. Everything that you talked about, Ralph, like, it applies to business law, but it also applies to pretty much every business course. It's a required course for accounting for most marketing majors. And so they might not understand accounting at first, but it's such an important skill for them to have, especially as AI is making things so much more accessible for individual contributors. Just really great stuff.
Thank you.
So we're gonna, if we have some questions come through, we can do that right after our next part, which is going to be our next guest, Caitlin Moss, and she's going to hop on and give us a little tour of the business law courseware and the first ever look at the brand new business law internship that'll be coming. So I'll hop off the stage and let you do that, Caitlin.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Abby. I'm really excited to talk to you guys and show you the actual textbook that they put together, as well as the Simternship that they've made for business law. So let me get this pulled up, but I was really excited. I like that Ralph shared that students are looking for career relevance, practical application, and hands-on learning, because that's really what we're offering with these materials. So you should all be able to see my screen. This is the business law textbook. Within here, you're going to see a lot of instructor resources for you. So we really designed the textbooks that'd be super turnkey so that anyone could jump in and have what they need to teach the course. So whenever you see this folder with a person on it, that means it's an instructor resource. So we have a course introduction here that'll go through everything that's included in the text. There's also a sample syllabus. There's a course calendar to help you structure the course. Within the chapters, you're also going to see a lesson plan in every chapter. So this will go into different discussion questions you can use in the class. There's different in-class activities. It'll even tell you how you can break down the time in the course, so how much time you want to spend talking about each topic. There's also lecture slides in every chapter. So this will download out into PowerPoint, so you can edit them however you want. There's also quiz answer slides if you want to go over the chapter quiz. So with that, every chapter has a chapter quiz in it that'll be auto-graded for you. There's also different case studies in here, assignments, and you'll see within the text, there's a lot of different links and pictures. There's different like concept checks, different call outs, because like Ralph was saying before, we as Gen Z have really short attention spans. And so our text is really focused on keeping students engaged. So you'll notice the sections aren't super long. That's on purpose. We're trying to keep their attention. So that's a quick look at what a chapter looks like in the textbook. At the end of this webinar, you can actually request access so you can dig into the text a little bit deeper on your own. But for now, I'm going to jump over to the simulation and show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is our new business law Simternship. Now at Stukent, we call all of our simulations Simternships because they're simulated internships. So like Abby was saying at the beginning, our goal is to bridge the gap between what students are learning in class to what they would actually be doing on the job. So in this simulation, they're taking on the role of an individual named Alex Rivera, who is going through a couple of different scenarios. So there's 10 rounds of the simulation. In each round, Alex is actually working a different role at a new company. So they'll get experience at a bunch of different companies and face different problems that happen in different departments at the company. So every round's going to start with a video explaining what they're working on. They have this inbox. So like Ralph was saying before, students need to learn that no matter what career they're going into, they need to be paying attention to their email, especially when their boss is sending them emails. So every round they'll have emails that'll be giving them advice for the round. They can become familiar with their different supervisors here, and then they'll get started. So I'll just jump into round one and give you an example of what this looks like. So in round one, Alex is a new marketing manager at a nationwide telehealth provider called Horizon Health Solutions. And they're having a huge problem. So they have a big HIPAA breach because someone on the marketing team accidentally posted a customer testimonial online that included that customer's information. It included their photo without having any permission from that individual. So we're going to have to figure out how to manage that breach, prevent lawsuits, and also rebuild patient trust. So again, we'll come into the inbox. Our VP is giving us some advice. She's also given us a guide that we can download out and look at that'll help us with this round. There's a couple other documents in here that'll help us. And then we'll get into these chat messages. So every round will have chat messages that makes it feel more like real life. So we have a message from Sarah Yoon. She's actually the team member at our company that accidentally posted this information. So she's asking us if she's going to get in trouble for this mistake. Now, I've already answered this one, but there's usually multiple responses here. You get to choose which one you want to send back. So you'll choose your response, send it back, and then she will reply to us. So you can see we have a couple of different ones we're going to respond to. Mia's asking us if they can sue Sarah and the company, so we'll choose an answer. And so they'll have these chat messages in every round, really to kind of check their understanding. It's more of a participation grade before they get into the scored parts. So after those chat messages, the first thing we're doing is understanding the law. So before we decide how we want to respond to the crisis, we really need to understand what's going on here. So they can flip through these flashcards and learn more about each of these topics. So they'll go through here. We have a couple of different areas that we're learning about, and we have these cool flashcards that they can use to learn. And so then they'll get down to the bottom here, and we have 4 different legal activities that we're matching to the law sources. So they'll drag these, and you can see it turns green when they have it correct. It'll be red when they have it incorrect. So they'll go through each of these. Then they need to prioritize their legal duties. So they can read through here their different legal obligations, and they're going to rank them from most urgent to least urgent. And so after that, now that we understand the law, they're going to come in here and decide how to respond to the crisis. So these will be over here. We're going to look at the different consequences that we could be facing. So they'll read through here and sort these between these different categories. And then they're drafting a response plan. So they're going to come in here. They'll actually put in the opening statement, the problem summary, the risk explanation, proposed action plan. And we designed it like this, where they're actually choosing written responses rather than typing in a response, because we know that a lot of professors deal with students using AI, things like ChatGPT, to do their written response homework for them. So this is a way to kind of get them to move away from that and actually have to read through these options, use some critical thinking, and choose what the best response would be. So they'll go through here, put together a response plan. Then the last thing that we're doing is evaluating ethical solutions. So we're going to speak with the patient who had their information leaked. He's requesting compensation because he feels exposed. He's being discriminated at work. So we have to respond in what the company is going to do to compensate him. So again, there will be multiple choice responses here. You can see I chose the wrong response, so I'm getting feedback on that. And we'll have a little conversation with Alex. And then we have our VP of Marketing, who is asking for more information about this. And so we will have responses here. And so that's an example of what a round looks like. Now, what's nice for you as the professor is that every round's actually auto-graded. So once the student's done, they'll hit run simulation, they'll submit the round, and then at the beginning of the next round, they'll see their results. So I can see I got a 60 out of 100, and this is going to go through here and tell me exactly why I got that score. It'll give me feedback on every activity that we did. And this really helps take care of like that first layer of coaching for you. So your students know exactly why they got the score that they got, and they have explanations here to help understand better. So that's a quick overview of a round. Once they get to the end of the simulation, they'll also get this certificate of completion. This is something that lots of students love to add to their resume, or it's fun at the end of the semester. We see lots of students posting these on LinkedIn. So just going back to having career-related experience, having more relevance from their class, this is something that can help them land that first job or that first internship outside of your class. Perfect. So that is a quick overview of the simulation and the textbook, and I'll turn it back to you, Abby.
Thanks so much, Caitlin, for walking us through that and powering through that quick little technical difficulty. Ralph, if you want to go ahead and hop back on stage and conclude today's event, if there's anything you want to add. I don't think we've had any questions come through the chat, which is okay, but I'll let you finish it off if you want to.
Yeah, and like we started, so again, thank you for your time. And like I said, when we started out, this relevance is so important to the students, you know this, and hopefully with those two items, the courseware and then the simulation, you can use either one or both of them. That really brings that home for you. I should mention one more thing, by the way, to finish it up. I actually send my students to court. So they have an assignment to go to court for 2 or 3 hours and actually write me a report about it, and they love this kind of stuff. Again, it goes back to this hands-on stuff. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. And again, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Ralph. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Caitlin as well. You can get free instructor access to Ralph's courseware and the accompanying Simternship that'll be coming soon. Or you can explore our site, look for the accounting, statistics, or analytics courses that we offer as well. Thank you so much.